All right, I'm good. We're back. I'm sweaty. We just got done setting up.
It's not even warm today.
Says you.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to get there.
It is cool today. But this week, we're going to talk about the training template and kind of where all of it, I guess, came from. So people kind of understand what it is.
Yeah, exactly. What the structure of it, and because there is a structure.
Yeah.
How do I start? Like where like when I started.
That's a good question.
Because I've been going at it for like 4 months now.
Yeah.
Right, and so I guess we.
Let's talk about when your training started to take kind of this shape first.
So that was about like 4 months ago. So the idea, I realize now that the 3 years on the road, even though I was training, it took a toll. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, on especially my heavy training, like structurally speaking, like the heavy yoke carry, stuff like that. So really it took a toll because of equipment, because of usually, like my strongman days was always on Saturdays, and that's usually seminars.
Yeah.
Not being able to find the equipment I wanted on the road, stuff like that. So I was doing a lot of the work in global gyms, which is not nearly as satisfying for me. I do a lot better with heavy carries. Mm-hmm. Like that's just what my body responds the best to. And so, but the good thing about that is it really gave me the opportunity to. I don't do well with bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. Like it makes me tired, and I don't get especially round. I don't know. Probably me doing it wrong. By the way, obviously. But it's not something where I feel I can put like the energy and then the drive that I get from strongman or stuff like that. Yeah. It seems my body reacts better to really heavy shoulder work. Mm-hmm. Like even for carries, it's like I like super heavy where it hurts everywhere. Yeah. Is it possibly, does it have something to do with, back to soreness and then, that supra compression? I feel like I respond better when there's a French expression that says se faire violence, which means do yourself violence. Mm-hmm. This is when right? It's a good expression. This is when my body responds the best. When I do farmer's walk until this is like, my hands are like, my fingers are hurting, my hands are hurting. That's when I make progress. When I come back home and like the entire body is like, feel like it got broken in half. That's when I seem to respond the best to training.
I think there's something interesting too with that, with the heavy carries specifically, anything whole body necessarily, but heavy carries, heavy compound movements in general. I just think people look very into the micro for like, well, it works this muscles and this muscle and this muscle. But one of the things that's going to give you the greatest benefit is going to be a hormonal adaptation, right? And I believe that a hormonal adaptation is a whole body adaptation, not I did my biceps and I did my pecs and I did abs today and upper back, so now I get hormone adaptation. I think stressing the entire body under heavy weight, I think is, and there are studies that'll corroborate this, is very, very useful as far as in making hormonal adaptation.
I believe it goes even past that. Remember that the study about soreness, what is soreness truly, with all that stuff? Remember when they started talking about the fact that bone density and muscle growth go together? Yeah. Right? Like the whole bone growth and muscle growth together, like the whole acetylcalcin stuff? Yeah. Right. I think there's something to be said about that. Like, so to refer back to that, there was the fight mode. So like there was in that paper that we talked about a few podcasts ago, they were talking about the need to be sore, for example, to grow muscle from a nervous system perspective, right? So I think the need to get beat up to grow. So I think it goes past soreness. It's not so much soreness as getting beat up. Mm-hmm. Right. And they were talking even that they went into a bit into this, like osteocalcin, is that what it's called? Like, osteocalcin, again, is that, I can't remember, but like there was the paper that we put showing that when there was a stressing of the bones, it increased the automated stress response, ASR, right? And there was an entire thing about that. It's like that the bones were responsible for triggering a high sympathetic response. Yeah. It was called, we talked about this in a podcast, and then we have a few papers out there. So if I look at it from entire system perspective, I think the bone crushing carries do all that. They put pressure on the soft tissue, the muscle, all that stuff for sure, like the core, like we think muscle. But they also put a lot of pressure on the bones.
Yeah.
I know that from that 1,000-pound yoke carry, right?
And your soul, if you're doing it.
Yeah, if you do it right, right? And I believe that bone crushing moment triggers results you cannot get any other way, because that goes all the way to the bone. And I feel like the more I'm reading about this, the more the stressing all the way to the bones is necessary to trigger the greatest fight response, which trigger the greatest hormonal response, which trigger the greatest response adaptation overall. Yeah, I think it goes way past muscle and hormonal. I think it goes all the way to literally the structure of the body, which is a skeleton. Yeah. And then that's why the whole thing with the bone and the ASR was that's why I'm reading into it as well.
So you went forever trying to just kind of get that shit done in global gyms on the road.
So, and no, that didn't work. Yeah. I realized how much I lost, honestly.
Yeah.
When it came to super heavy, like I lost a lot. So like at normal, 500-pound yoke carry, I couldn't tell the difference. But then suddenly it gets to 600 and I'm like, man, this feels heavy. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I was like, fuck, like I used to do I did 400 pounds more than that. Mm-hmm. I used to run with 800. Yeah. And I was like 600, now it feels heavy. I was like, ooh. But, and then we are at the office and, like you get into that groove where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, right? And so I'm doing my row pulls, I'm doing my stuff and everything, but I'm not challenging my body with the bone breaking stuff anymore.
Not enough violence at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But also what I remember, one of the reasons too is I remember when I was doing myself violence that much, like back in Torrance, that it was also not done correctly, because first of all, I would train and I'd be wrecked for that day, if not the next day. So I couldn't work. Mm-hmm. I was incapable of working. A lot had to do also with nutrition, because I wasn't doing the protocol back then. There was a number of issues. But I also realized that back then, all I was doing was bone crushing 2-3 times a week, every week for 5 years. And I was like, okay, like that's... And so I had imbalances not addressed as much as I should have. So there was a number of things where I was like, I did not put all the stuff together correctly. But how could I? I did not come up with all that stuff back then. Yeah. Right. So I was still missing pieces. I had a lot of it, but I was missing pieces. And I was like, all right. And then 4 or 5 months ago, whenever it was, I was like, oh, fuck it. Like I think I was watching like all like Instagram stuff. And I was like, nah, I want to be that strong again. Like I had that, but by the way, like coming back just from a personal perspective, I realized that being on the road, not having a home and a gym, like the same gym to train at, really messed up rituals, and it made it really harder to be like consistent.
Yeah. I mean, those people really sleep on the training rituals in general. Yeah. I think people have a lot of them that they don't even pay attention to. Yep. I started to notice it just when we had talked about kind of leaning on some of those weird little rituals. If you're getting like kind of preset or session anxiety, you can start to note some of the behaviors. Yeah. And I would notice all my little rituals too that were like, so when I started training without just going, we're all over the place, So I would be like, oh shit, I don't have my elbow sleeves and my wrist wraps. Right. How am I supposed to bench today? How is this happening? Yeah. How?
I don't have the shoes that I usually use. Am I going to squat
without my lifters? But how? This is just not going to. So every kind of every session ended up being
1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I had to just do away with all of those little. For me, it was good because a lot of those became like
crutches,
sort of crutches.
Right. Exactly.
But also they do give you consistency, kind of. It gives you a lot of...
So there is a balance as usual, right? And for example, me, where I also fell is that like I ended up having, it was too much of the same stuff. But that's me too, because I get in rituals and I never stop, right? But I was doing, like almost the same stuff every Saturday and everything. Like there was a number, I fell into some normal pitfalls, but still fell into it. I was like, all right. So, and then 4 months ago, I was like, you know what? I want to be strong again. I'm watching those videos going like I used to front squat what is that? Did I front squat the 240 or some like sandbag or some like ridiculous stuff?
Yeah, we did that in St. Louis too.
Yeah, like also. It was. I was like, fuck, I was strong. So I was like, I want to go back to some decent level of strength. Like just one day, I was like, no, I want to be strong again. So I was like, all right, but this time I'm gonna do it integrating everything that I know now compared to then. And it was an interesting experiment. Let's see what happens. And so And like about 6 weeks ago, like maybe 2 months now, I was like, all right, Richard, so we're going to train together on Saturdays again. Like also to make him go back to that stuff and everything. And then right away, that first session, I was like, oh, that felt good because he was there, like with the two of us, started to hit it hard. And I was like, all right, we need to do this again. We need to have an entire setup where we go back to business. And I was like, all right, so like now, like, so we're in Amsterdam, love the house. We have the cracked gym where we can go to. So it's a mess right now with the virus, but still overall we can, there's a consistency. I was like, all right, let me apply now everything that I've learned since Torrance into seeing if I can do better.
Yeah.
Programming wise. And so I was like, all right, so first things first, do I go in blocks or like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? Because actually they're gonna be the same thing, whether in a mesocycle block or within the day.
Let's just go kind of in order of the blocks.
Yeah. So like if you look at traditional strength and conditioning, there's always a building phase that peaks and everything, and that has to be right because we've been doing it for so long.
You see it everywhere. You almost don't see a training system that's devoid of that. Even linear programming is going to essentially be designed so that you are building.
But even like the what you call that, the conjugate system is building blocks still.
Yeah.
Like so my idea was like, all right, so we have the phylogenetic hierarchy, right? So we have the wheel in StrongFit, and so I've been training that way for a long time now, for at least 2 years. Where so to refresh everybody's memory, what is the wheel? Phylogenetic hierarchy is not my term; it's actually a evolutionary biology term. It just means like that the system. So, for example, the nervous system tries to solve. The entire body system tries to solve issues first with the newest part of the nervous system. That happens to be like the ventral vagus nerve, so the flow state. Yeah. So it works like that. It's like you start to always solve a problem with the flow state first. That's the latest part of what evolution gave us. Then from there, when that fails, you go toward the sympathetic. So first you're going to go into fight, then you're going to go into flight, and then when that fails, you're going to go into freeze. So you got flow, fight, flight, freeze. Right. So, for example, you have an argument with a neighbor. You try first to socialize and talk, saying, "Excuse me, your dog is shitting on my lawn. Like, would you do something about it?" Guy is an asshole, and he says, "Fuck off." So what happens? So that failed. So you move to second one, which is physical altercation. Let's imagine that you lose, then you run away home and call your mom, right? And then the guy actually follows you, knocks on your door, and now you're in a fetal position. Praying that the guy is going to go away. You're playing dead. That's a freeze mode. So you can see that. You can see that even in training session, where you do grace, you do the first few reps, it feels great, you have a pump, that's awesome, and then it starts to get rough, right? And you start to mentally get angry because the pump is almost too much. So you start to fight, you go toward external torque, then you drop the bar, first thing you do is you turn away.
Yep.
That's a flight mode, and then you have to come back, and eventually you have your hand on your knees, rethinking your life choices, right? And that's a freeze mode, where your body's like, we are done expending energy at the moment.
I think I do that. All of that, run through all of that in about 90 seconds, and I'm in a pile of
when we do the
heap on grace.
When we do the sled.
Well, and with the sled thing too.
Sled,
pretty much everything.
Yeah, sled. If you look at the first few steps, you go like, this is feeling good.
Yeah.
And then you go like,
this one's
now it's not
right.
anymore. And exactly. And then you go like, oh, this is getting hard. And like, oh, come on, I got this. And then halfway through, you go, fuck. And at the end, dead.
In that moment too, like once you get there, where it turns from, you're like, okay, maybe it's not going to be, and then they're like, oh, it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly when my brain goes, well, now I just need to fucking ramp all the way up, because right now I need to put out as much as I can to get this fucking thing
And
done.
so, and you'll notice what happens is there's always that moment where you have a burst of energy to go a little bit further. That's the burst of energy we talk when you go from lactate to adrenaline and everything. So you get a burst of energy, and then that burst of energy is very short. And then when you fall, that's when you're dying, and then you'll go all over the fucking, you're in full flight, you go all over the fucking place, like suddenly the sled doesn't go straight anymore, which of course is worse. Like your feet are dancing all the way around, and inside you're dying more and more, and then basically your brain is trying to tell you to stop expending energy.
Yeah. Now what Julien does is he notices that happens, that burst of energy happens usually within about the first 10 seconds of anything that I do. So
exactly. One more.
So he's like, wait.
Yeah. So let's work with that. And so right. So we see that in almost everything that we do.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So an idea. Let's imagine that that's the way the system is designed, and it is the way the system is designed.
Yeah.
But what if it applies to training? Let's imagine for a second that should apply for training first. All right. So what would that mean? That would mean that the first part of the training session is going to be the one where you get a pump, where everything feels good, right? So flow state. Flow means more, inhale, exhale, like more toward nasal breathing. But basically the idea would be more to get a pump. So imagine again on the sled, first part, you get a pump, it feels awesome. I'm like, all right, so what would that be? That would be like higher reps, more toward IT movement, right? We couldn't even go towards cyclical on that one. But all the stuff where you get a pump, higher reps, flow, internal torque, all that things, right? And so the idea was we're going to continue this up until the moment where, just like on the sled, where the pump is getting to a moment where you are switching states. You're going from that IT flow to ET, sympathetic, now it's time to fight. Like, again, the sled, like at first it feels good, and you start to feel like the pump in your leg is getting so much that you get angry.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all been there, where suddenly you go from that was good to, well, I'm in the shit now.
Yeah.
Time to put up or shut up.
Yep.
Right? And you see that on Grace at first, like you're very smooth. You're very, like you're going through, like your coordination is good. And then suddenly it starts to get hard. It starts to hurt a little bit. Coordination starts to go kind of away, let's put it this way. And so what happens, that's when mentally you go, okay, now the shit is real, time to hit it. Your form isn't as good, but you start to be far more, you're in a fight mode now. Yeah. Right, so that's the switch, right? And you'll notice your form is also switching because now you're in sympathetic, you're in ET, right? So I was like, all right, so then so I would go from a flow like assistance work, bodybuilding, we're going to come back to that, into IT, into the ET mode. What is the ET mode? That is the external torque, like max strength work, max power output applied, so strength work. So that means that we would start, let's say, with a bodybuilding session, right? Assistance work, where I do, for example, so let me give you that's day 2, where we would do legs. Yeah. I'm going to go back to day 2 because there's something very interesting about AMRAP versus reps that I want to talk about, right? But so I would start with lunges, and then I would do, if I have a global gym, I would do leg press, or I would find a way, to blast the quads, but basically I'm getting a pump. And then I'm getting to that moment where the whole thing hurts so much, I'm going toward external torque. So now that means I am prime for strength work. So then from there, I would go toward, always do some bicep curl because it helps, but then going into bench pressing or like push press, but something very heavy, because now I am primed to go towards strength work, which in a way is interesting because this is the opposite of what the regular stuff tells you. You go strength first, followed by assistance work. I actually switch the other way around because I want to prepare you for the strength work. So now you go, so we've done all lower body exercises through a pump, so we're going to do upper body strength. Then I get you into the max bench press and or dips with weight or whatever the fuck we're doing. And then after that, I'm going to drive you toward the anaerobic threshold by making you finish with a pure conditioning session, but not... So what I want out of the conditioning is to produce as much lactate as I can. So that's very important. If you do interval training, like 3-4 minutes in, 2 minutes off, and then repeat that like 5-10 times, it's actually the max VO2 max. It's the best way to develop your VO2 max. The issue is that though is you will reduce your VLA max, your capacity to produce lactate. It's been shown with that kid who was had the highest VO2 max at 96% ever recorded, but he also had no power output. Yeah. There's a moment when you raise your VO2 max, especially through interval training that way, where you're going to lower your capacity to produce lactate. So what we're going to do instead is a VLA max training type, where I'm going to make you do, for example, the max meters you can run in 60 seconds. So why meters for 60 seconds, not the other way around, I'm going to explain. So max meters running for 60 seconds, followed by like 30 seconds of max, I don't know, if you want to do CrossFit, it's just like, dumbbell presses or like GHD sit-up or something, followed by 30 seconds GHD on the Airdyne, sorry. Okay. On the Airdyne, but again, like, so everything is a full sprint where there's no like pacing, nothing. You're just going to hit as hard as you can. If you're capable of generating the same kind of effort, you can do a second round. If you can generate the same kind of effort, you can do a third round. But the point is not to do 3 rounds. The point is to get you to an aerobic threshold.
Okay.
And so that's how I designed the template, basically. And so the idea was to follow the phylogenetic hierarchy when I go from flow to fight to close to flight. And that's where we stop.
Yeah.
And if you look at the, once you cannot generate the energy, because if you keep on going, you're just going to go toward the freeze. Like you're going to go full flight, full avoidance, and I have no interest in that. So what I want to make you flirt with an aerobic threshold.
What are you're talking about to finish a session, what are the downfalls of finishing a session in flight, freeze, going too far, just crushing your shit?
Yeah, so you'll have different stuff, for example, burn the questions, like when we finish completely. First of all, you're going to be done for the day.
Yeah.
You're going to be completely thrashed and everything. And it's extremely taxing if you do it too often.
So
burn the question is once a week.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to clarify. Yeah. There's value in going there. You need to go there. You need to get to that point, push beyond the edge.
Right, you need to, yes.
But when you're trying to do something deliberate, it needs to probably not go that far.
Yeah.
You're just shy of.
Right, exactly. So in the template, it's burn the question once a week where you're just going to say fuck it and go for it. But conditioning most of the time should not go that far because this is testing in a way.
Yeah.
No, it's testing your soul.
And usually what happens is when you try to go that far too often, you're actually never going that far.
No.
You're never going
if you're always at an 8, you'll never get to 10. You'll get to 9 maybe. Like that's that.
Or the work that you're doing when you're getting to an 8 or a 9 is going to be less and less sufficient too. Right. I mean, that's the thing. I can attest to that greatly. And that I train when I can do the fight thing. It kind of becomes how I get things done in training. But very often, your capacity, if that's the only domain that you're training in, your capacity to put out work in that domain gets less and less and less.
And people make that mistake the most is with cardio.
Yes.
Like most people cannot build cardio, they're testing cardio. Every time they do a cardio session, regardless of what it is, they're incapable of building, they just go. It's a mental thing, it's almost like they're enjoying hurting themselves, and they go until they end up in freeze, where they literally cannot do. But that's testing cardio, that's not building cardio. That's not how the shit works. Is you have to be able to finish a workout going like, man, that was really hard. So that's the point. Is like me, I'm not going to make you do something long because I want like full lactate production. But so that's why it's going to be like maybe 2 minutes max. Right? But for 2 minutes, it's going to be a fucking sprint. Where you go 1 minute, full sprint, 30 seconds of abs, 30 seconds of air-dyne. But normally after that, it should take you 5 minutes before you can do another round. If you can do another round a minute later, that means you never did the first round in the first place. Right? Yeah. So that one is for lactate production.
Okay.
Why? Because to raise your VO2 max and to being able to use the lactate as fuel that you're producing during that session, you have the Disney December you have to do on the side anyway.
Yeah.
So that's going to be taken care of, but not in that session. That session is producing lactate. That's what the session in the gym is for.
So we'll have produced lactate purposely in those sessions, but most of your lactate, what's the word? The using lactate training, if you will, or building that up, that's going to be done via the Disney December, kind of in its own.
Exactly. It's its own thing, which is not even a training session, but it's just, you know what the Disney December is, one of the greatest things about that, because I realized that on myself, is it teaches you to nose breathe. So that, more than that, teaches you to nose breathe, but it gives you the capacity to nose breathe. You know why it's the most important? At night when you're in bed, so that you can spend the night sleeping nose breathing instead of mouth breathing. If I don't do the Disney December twice a week, I've noticed that at least that my capacity to nose breathe at night is not the same. Like I'm at night and I'm like, and I'm like, why am I mouth breathing? That's so weird. But if I do Disney December, mouth closed. But you're not going to do that if you're not comfortable with pure nasal breathing. So Disney December also is to make you very comfortable, almost not under stress because it's a very low stress, but still a stress higher than when you're in bed, right? So that way you can develop that nasal breathing capacity so that you can breathe, so you can sleep in nasal breathing, which has fantastic consequences for you, fantastic qualities. Yeah. So to come back to one thing, so why do I use AMRAPs? It's something so I've been at it for 4 months, and then about like 6-7 weeks ago, I gave it to the mentoring program to try, and then I saw the same results for the ones doing it. lazy bastards, the other ones, we saw this something very interesting happening. So on day 2, I have something which is like you're gonna do 1 minute AMRAP lunge on one leg.
Yep.
So I like to do it with a Smith machine if I'm at the global gym because it allows me to position and because I really want you to hit the inside leg and the glutes on that one. It's not a matter of quads. I want everything on inside leg and glutes. That's why, again, that like that. So what we call phase 1, which is the flow phase, and phase 2 is the strength phase, and phase 3 is the conditioning phase. Right? So phase 1 is all about, in a way, assistance work and finding muscles. Right. So I'm going to do AMRAP, one leg, right? So let's say left leg in front, and for 1 minute, I do as many reps as I can. So I came about to that in a very interesting way. At first, I was doing reps of 15 seconds. 15 reps of one leg. And I had a certain amount of weight. And so I do my 15 reps and it's hurting everywhere and I'm dying and everything. And at some point, I'm tired of doing 15 reps. I'm like, fuck it, let me try something else. Let's put a song that I like for 1 minute. So I'm going to do as many reps as I can for 1 minute. And so I do that. And then I'm finishing the stuff and I'm dying and everything and I'm just as much pain of 15 seconds. But I'm like, how many reps was that? And I'm asking the person who I was with and she was like, well, it's about 25. I was like, wait, but that was the same weight when I was doing 15. It's like, what the fuck? I was like, I did really good. And every single time I noticed that when I did an AMRAP of 60 seconds, I would do more reps at the same weight than I did for 15 reps. So I would I would find a weight for 15 reps. Yeah. But when I did an AMRAP 60 seconds, I always end up doing more reps than when I said I would do 15.
Yeah.
Objective versus constraints, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I started testing that for every single night I did, and it worked almost every time. And then I asked everybody on the mentoring program to do that, and they ended up finding exactly the same stuff. Yeah. When you go for a minute, you will always go harder in the fight than when you go for 15 reps.
And when time is the only thing you're worried about, time and effort.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing,
exactly.
Something I've been playing with my accessory work for quite some time.
Yeah, exactly.
Time sets. And I've been practicing with.
That's why I did it, because you were doing it. Yeah, that's why I did it. Yeah, that's on Tyler.
Had to work that one in.
Exactly. Yeah.
but
that's true.
But with mine, I was playing with the time and being able to get the weight and intensity to modulate the time, right? Meaning 2 minutes was going to inherently be lighter work, and if I went 1 minute or 30 seconds, I could do heavier work. Yep. And I haven't gotten fully into that end of it, but what I did notice is doing time sets. Man, when time and effort are my only concerns, like I got a minute. This muscle, whatever this exercise is going to give me, I'm going to get it.
Yep, exactly.
And it really changed the way that I did my accessory work from that passive 11, 12. And to the point now where even when I do have some deliberate accessory work, I'll find things that can be done in that capacity. So, for example, I'm doing kind of a bench progression, if you will, that's kind of interwoven with my other stuff. And it's an aging Ed Cohn thing. It's Ed Cohn when he was a little older. So I figured that was about where whatever. But
that guy. Yeah.
But basically, it's similar to Ed's old.
As a rule, do the aging Ed Cohn, not the young Ed Cohn one.
And so you get to the end, of course. In each one, you finish with some drop sets where you do your heavy, then you drop down, and then I would finish. You have to finish with an AMRAP, which was again that's the same intent, right? It's just burn it out, do it. Yeah. Some people just can't get there with it. And so instead of going just sitting down and going for until I failed, I would do the same thing. I would set a window, set 1 minute, go to failure, take 2 breaths, and fucking go again. And just because it felt to me like it made the result of that effort worthwhile.
And it works much better. I think it's because when you go for reps, pain is a hindrance to get you the reps.
And you're on the attack.
Yeah.
I feel like.
For reps. Whereas when it's for time, pain is a point. Which means you don't start thinking until you are in pain. That's the point. So the fight becomes the pain instead of the reps. That changes everything.
There's moments in those where I've had the words come into my head where you're like, here we are.
Yeah.
Now
we're working.
Well, and then what's worse is it might be 20 seconds later we go, oh, now we're in it.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting is when I did the 15 rep stuff is I felt like the work was 1 to 10 and then 10 to 15 I was trying not to break down too much. When I do the song, I feel like I'm working 30 seconds in.
Yeah.
When the pain is at its most, I'm like, now I'm working.
And then where I think the value is this is why I got a lot of benefits from that bodybuilding style training was when you do that, you pay more attention in the beginning, not to just moving then. So that first 30 seconds, it's not going to hurt really like the last 30 seconds.
Yep.
So what I would try to do is try to make it.
Yeah.
Do slower, focus harder. Don't just move.
You're focusing
harder.
You're focusing on the pain.
Everything. Yeah. Literally make that like let's fucking handicap myself as much as possible with this muscle. And then I can have some time where it is really under duress.
I found myself the first 30 seconds trying to feel the muscle stretch, contract the most. Yeah. I don't do that when I count reps. Yeah. No. But when I have first 30 seconds, it seems like I'm not in pain yet. Let me make sure my form is like I feel the muscle stretching, contracting, stretching. Yeah. It has brought a completely different mindset to my training. And I think that's why I couldn't do bodybuilding properly, because I never had the proper mindset when it came to it.
Well, it was funny too, even when I was doing reps on my stuff yesterday, is I go through and it was finishing with like 5 sets of 8 at like, it was like 50%. So it was at like 100 kilos, 5 sets of 8. And it was like, all 5 of those were kind of And the last one I was going to AMRAP. So I set it on for a minute. And I think also all of these were supposed to be done with 90 seconds rest in between. So they kind of still compounded, but it was kind of And then the last one I put on, it was just like, all right, now we just go. And I went in my head, I was like, we're going to set a minute and we're going to go for it. By the time I racked it, I got like 26. This is with the Swiss bar. And my fucking pecs were in such bad shape that I don't know what time there was on it, but there was nothing else happening. That was it. But to where 8 was like kind of a little bit of a chat, but to be able to then do the same thing to do 26.
Right.
Then in my head, I'm like, well, what the fuck was the point of these first 8?
Exactly.
And the second...
right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's also what I discovered, is like, if I do reps now, like, I'm at 10 and I'm like, what was the point? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, so many athletes have said that. It's like you start counting when it hurts. Yeah. Like going back to the paper of you need the soreness to
to adapt.
To adapt, you need se faire violence, to do yourself violence. I think se faire violence is the key to progress. This is why I think the burner questions work so well, because nothing is more violent than the burner question sessions. Yeah. Like even when you do cardio, like it has to fucking, like your leg, that's why I want like 1 minute AMRAP. So I don't want you to run as fast as you can for 200 meters, because you're not. But if I say you have 1 minute, and in 1 minute, I want you to make your lungs, you're gonna have to puke your lungs at the end of a minute. That's running fast. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? And you learn.
It's also constraint-based training. 1 minute, puke your lungs.
Puke your lungs out. That's the constraint, right? But then on the other hand, it's something you have 30 seconds. Is go. I don't care how many cal you do. I just want you to go until your shoulders, your arms fall off, or your legs, or whatever you decided to hit. Same thing for the abs until your abs cramp. I mean, like that constraint base, like that. I think that is the key to growth. Yeah. And growth, I mean, you as a person, you as as a system, everything is that do yourself violence is the key. Yeah. I really think so. So that's what
That's a fucking next shirt. What are we even talking about?
Right, that's the one, right? Do yourself violence.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, StrongFit, do yourself violence. Yeah, that's the one. All right. Yeah, because that's such a good expression. But and so that's how I build a template. So the idea was like, you have the first phase 1, right? So it's all that flow, but the flow is not like I'm gonna get a pump, because there's people gaming is like, yeah, I got a pump at the 12 reps. I'm like, no, I mean like when you're done with a minute of curls, like you go T-Rex, your arm falls off. It's like, good, rest a bit, now do the other arm. And then we do that for 3 sets. And then the next exercise. So everything is going to be the maximum pain. Then we go to phase 2, which is strength work. Then it's going to be as heavy as shit until your bones are ready to break. And then when we go to phase 3, it's going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to puke my lungs out. If you've done that, you have hit all systems of the wheel to your best. Yeah. That's what I want the session to be. And so that's how I build the template, and it has worked extremely well so far. And so, but going back to the blocks idea, right? You can't just do the same thing all the time. No. Like there's a block. And so I was like, all right, so how am I going to build the block? I'm like, but there's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 in the template. What if they have a block 1, block 2, block 3 built exactly the same? Most of the time when you see the typical strength and condition, you have what? You have assistance work first, a block of hypertrophy, followed by a block of strength. Right, so that sounds like phase 1 to phase 2. Yeah. And then what you see more at the end of that, you have a 2-week break, right? So where usually they make you do conditioning in order to prepare you. So that's phase 3. Yep. So they go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, so they do follow the wheel. They just do it through blocks and not within the system. I was like, all right, so what if I build a template the same way? So which means we're going to have a block 1 that is basically building phase 1. Right, so that's the first 6 weeks of the template, was a heavy emphasis on phase 1. Lots of assistance work, lots of bodybuilding, lots of stuff. So the first 6 weeks of the template is a block 1, phase 1 emphasis. So in that template, like the first day was like the typical burn the question strongman, but day 2 was a lot of legs. There's a back day. You're gonna do also stuff for the pecs and everything. I put like a sandbag day in it, so we can. So the idea was like, again, do yourself violence, which means I'm gonna put you through different modalities to hit you from all sides, so that your body has to adapt. So there was a sandbag day. There was a day more so there was a lot of body weight in there as well on other days, and then there's some bodybuilding, then some strongman. The strength works is toward conjugate system for powerlifting, stuff like that. But I'm going to do it as a block 1, 6 weeks with an emphasis on phase 1. And then after that, naturally, you should want to switch to a phase 2 emphasis. So block 2 is 4 weeks. Why? Because you can't take 6. Trust me, I'm week 3 and I'm like, fuck this. Like, can I make it week 4?
By the way, I've seen this Julien of 3 weeks on this thing. 3 weeks on this thing is a Julien that is smashed.
Yeah, like I mean, you've seen from the video from the farmer's walk, it's working. Yeah. But I'm like, thank God it doesn't last forever. Like this is how I killed myself.
Well, and these are those points too when we talk about training being auto-regulating, where we are seeking adaptation, or when we are seeking adaptation, there does become a point where it's like, we have to totally drag you underwater a little bit, and that's right about where you're at right now. I would guess.
Yeah, but this is also where I realized like a mistake in the past, because like I'm making so much progress right now. So right now I'm at 230, 235. I'm the leanest I've ever been.
Is this when your recovery demands are the highest? Every once in a while, people call us fat and we got to take our shirts off.
Let me do the podcast without my shirt. You know that I was asked by a lady, by message, to at least put training session without a shirt on.
Yeah, come on.
The summer is coming, and I'm lean enough to do it now.
I haven't made it through a gym with my shirt on. Like
no, but like right now, like I'm lean enough. I'm over 230 lean enough. I'm like, I'm gonna train without my shirt on. I'll be a full CrossFitter soon.
Perfect. Is this phase right now where you're in? Is your recovery demands, sleep, food? Is it all kind of been the heaviest demands too? Like,
so it's very interesting. So I'm on block 2, so phase 2 emphasis, which means right now I have 2 strongman sessions a week. And then followed by 1 powerlifting session and 1 conditioning session, which is heavy conditioning. So I do like reps of like 10 to 15 reps, rows into push presses into sets of 15 on a deadlift. And then that's 1 set, and I do 4 sets of that. And then I did that. So, I'm like heavy conditioning. So in a way, CrossFit style, but my way. And so that's 4 days out of the week plus... What's my other day? I have 4 days out of the week plus the 2 days of something that is closer to VO2 max training to compensate from all that shot. So I went from 5-6 days a week to technically 4 days of lifting, but my other day is a lot of body weight stuff.
Yeah.
So that my joints can handle the stuff. So that's the second block of the template is 4 weeks of beat you down into the ground. So 2 strongmen, 1 powerlifting, 1 conditioning, heavy with weights. And then the 2 days where it's body weight stuff, again, for the joints. So but it's flow work.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like, so body weight stuff, pull-ups, push-ups, my animal stuff, lunges or whatever, but it's like never pushing, but like 80%, but continuous motion, nasal breathing, almost like it's not a Disney December because it's a different idea, but like flow work to make sure my body can recover. And then also I run like 2.5 minutes as fast as I can, 2.5 minute breaks 3 times. So that pure conditioning, that's actually very close to VO2 max training. But in that phase, that's okay because I'm building so much lactate, and then I'm on, 8 weeks on heavy lactate work. It's not impacting me yet. And so this is where I'm at now. And yes, recovery, like I'm sleeping a lot. And very interestingly, at night, I need to eat 500 to 600 grams of red meat.
More. So you need to eat more than you did before.
Protein.
You're craving it. Yeah.
Protein. I eat I would say less fat, or maybe fats. I still have my oatmeal in the morning, like before I go train, but that doesn't change. I have the chocolate milk when I train. I'm testing that phase again, and then I talked about that in the other podcast. But I'm staying under 50, half a liter. But the biggest difference has been the protein at night. It's like 500-600 grams of steak at night. Like I have to have that. And if I don't, the next day I can feel it. So the amount of protein that I consume naturally is way, way higher. But I crave it. Yeah. So I crave red meat. I put even like an egg in it. It's like protein. Yeah. The rest of the food hasn't changed in quantity. The fats, the stuff, nothing has changed, but the protein at night.
Yeah, crazy.
And so the recovery, I feel beat up right now, but I want to go to the gym. So mentally, it's a great phase. Like all the lifts are going up. Again, I'm like 230, 235, probably like 11% body fat, I would say, because I'm way leaner than I was. Yeah. So I've gained muscle, got leaner, and get way stronger. So now, finally, last week I hit like 340 kilos on the yoke carry, which is like 750 yoke carry, which is low for me compared to back then, but I'm also a lot lighter. Yeah. I'm 10 pounds lighter than back then, but I've done the farmer's walk with at least 140, 145 kilos per hand, which is actually quite high for me. So my numbers are coming back to, statically, they're not there yet, but it's going up. Yeah. Every week is going up. I feel better. I feel recovered, smashed, but recovering enough to get it's good session after good session after good session. Yeah. So it's going to be 4 weeks of that. And then when I can't, so after 4 weeks, I'll stop because that's the mistake I made before. And I saw how ridiculous I was.
Yeah. Well, no, that is interesting, right, though? Because you could take this and go, okay, now I need a little more carbs when I train because it's a little heavier. I'm going to need a little more meat when I sleep because I'm eating more.
So that I can keep on doing it.
And the moment that I made this mistake in coaching and training, everything, but the moment that magnitude, like the amplitude is the only thing that you can increase of things to take it further, you know that thing, it's not a place you can play with forever.
And that means you're in the wrong place. Yeah. Because now you're trying to get in and don't get me wrong,
you got to get in and you got to get loud in that moment, in that phase.
Right.
And then you need to get out.
Exactly. And there's a voice in my head that goes like, you do so well when you go under super heavy, which is true. I think that's what my body is built to. But there's a voice in my head that says like, why don't we just keep going it a little? Yeah. Because then, no, it's a bad idea. And then either I'll break or I'll just crash mentally. This is what I've done. So I would crash for a week and then go right back to super heavy. I've done that. I did that for years. I realized how ridiculous this was. Yeah. But there's that voice in my head, man.
It's like, it really does. It's like,
the more tired I get,
it's the training equivalent of drinking off a hangover. You're like, all right, I guess I'll just eat more and train harder and see how this goes.
Yeah. And the more smash I get, the louder the voice gets going like, that was good. Yeah. Why don't we smash like that every day? Yeah. I was like, 4 days is plenty. But there's a voice in me that goes like, let's go to the gym and I don't know, just do heavy bicep or something. Like that wants the heavy stuff. Yeah. It's crazy. But so I'm trying to quiet the voice.
How do you transition then out of this heavy phase without like,
I said simple. I said 4 weeks. I said 4 weeks.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do after 4 weeks now? That means that means I'm going through the fight mode. That's from outside.
Mom, send socks.
Yeah. Exactly.
Struggle is real.
Yeah. I send 2 pairs. I have the same problems. So it's a 6-4-2 cycle then for the template, which means 4 weeks. I made a lot of progress. I could stop right now. I'm not going to. Yeah. I'm going to go 4 weeks because I'm enjoying this so much. But the fact is I made so much progress, like it would not be a bad idea to go like, all right, let's just go into conditioning. I'm not ready. Mm-hmm. It's like, when you do grace and you're still fighting through that anger is coming. It's like, no, I can do 2 more reps because you're still angry at the bar. Yeah. Right, that's me right now. I'm like, no, I can beat the shit out of myself another, just a little bit more. Like I think, so I'm on week 3 or on week 2?
This should be 3.
Right?
I
think so. Yeah. And so 3. That means I have 1 more week of beating the living shit of myself. And then once I'm done with that, naturally, I should want to switch to phase 3, which will be more conditioning based. So what I'll do is even the template will be more than that. So I'll increase the 2.5 minute run that I do, because that's how I prepare myself for the 5K way back then. I'll do more like sandbag, carry, and squat. Like I'll go toward more a conditioning based training template for 2 weeks, so that after that I can go right back to my 6 weeks of phase 1. Okay. And so that's how the template is based. It's on a 6-4-2 basis.
Nice.
And so there's 3 different faces as blocks and within the template.
Okay.
So they mirror each other in that sense.
But what if I don't want to train like you?
Then don't do the template.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good for
Yeah.
What I was getting at is one of the issues we kind of had with the former templates that we had was that we tried to cover way too many bases instead of just being like, no, we're trying to do too much adapting to take this, modify, make
That's
it work.
because when I started it, I was given constraints, but they were not
there
my
was a
own.
need.
But they were not my own. So that doesn't mean you can't adapt the exercises. You don't want to do lunges. You're not at a global gym or whatever. Fine, use a barbell, use a safety squat bar, use dumbbells or whatever. But the idea of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is what I would like to see people follow up. And then within those phases, as long as you understand the phases, you can change the exercises, but not the ideas. Yeah. So that's the problem. Is when I say that, I know people are going to game it to do in phase 2 CrossFit, which is absolutely not the point.
Yeah.
So understand what the phases are supposed to be, and from there you can use, if you like, you have 6 weeks. If you like a linear progression, you can even use a linear progression within the 6 weeks for phase 2. Me, I like more conjugate system. So you'll see me switch. Sometimes I use like a 2-week wave of 3 exercises, 2-week wave over 6 weeks, and then the phase 2 is like 1 different exercise each week for 4 weeks. So there are ways like that where you can start to play conjugate versus versus linear progression. You can even have a 10-week linear progression, since the first 6 weeks is actually a build-up, and then you really focus on the higher percentage on the last 4 weeks. Yeah. There are many ways to adapt that template.
Well, it was interesting, even with adapting the exercises, is you need to read into it what is on the paper relative to what it is to you as an athlete or as a person. Because we were training the other day, and it was front rack sandbag carries, which are really, really, really nasty.
Yeah.
Except kind of not for me.
Yeah. You're actually fine with that.
What the problem is, it's not because I have super great structure. It's just I can just be there. I'm wide. I don't struggle with the size of the bag. It's just not as challenging for me. So I did one, and everyone else was dying. And I did one, and then we had to do another one, and I was like, I'm gonna do a regular carry. Because also not because it's easier for me, because it was way harder.
Yeah, because it was way harder. Yeah,
because I was like, exactly. I could kind of do this one all day, but if I go to this other one, but that's where I know I had a need, because I can feel that need when I do other things like deadlift and all that stuff. So being able to make those modifications while understanding what the point of the fucking exercise is matters.
Yeah. So that's, you can adapt. You should adapt based on what you need, but while understanding the point of the phases that we have within the template and all that stuff. But the results have been crazy. So I've been doing like the 6-4-2, so I'm on week 9 or whatever of the template that I put out. And the results have been I'm really, really happy. I feel I'm getting strong again. So But
I don't like doing carries on the same days as this guy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it feels better right now. But at the same time, thank God for the structure of the template in that sense, because I know otherwise I go right back into trying to do this for 6 months at a time and completely crash myself.
Well, it's good timing too to come into to be working this out when you don't have the global gym right there where you can always kind of fall into work.
Yeah, exactly. But then the work in a global gym is what drains my soul the most. That's what will make me want to quit training is bodybuilding. It's a wrong mindset. I'm not doing it right. Obviously, it's on me, not on bodybuilding, but it just drains my soul. I need the heavy, I need the pain stuff. And so can you find pain with bodybuilding? Of course. You can see all the top guys when they train to their utmost.
And I think it can be found. You either got to find it and do it. Sometimes the right training partner helps too, just to get just the routines really, and be this is how I go here, and when I do this, it's got to be like this. And sometimes you just don't get there on your own always. But it's very tricky.
Maybe I would have to do supersets in the gym, but a global gym, it's hard. There's always someone who wants a machine and stuff like that. And there's too many people around me. And
depending on the global gym you go at, there's a lot of places kind of in Europe that I see where it's kind of frowned upon to be working very hard.
Yeah. Well, at least in Holland it is.
There's kind of a don't sweat in the gym vibe that I get.
Amsterdam is way better.
Okay.
Amsterdam, the place I've been to in Amsterdam is way better. Utrecht was
a lot of college kids there that maybe are just trying to be pretty when they're in the gym.
It's mostly be pretty, don't sweat.
Yeah.
Like, and don't make facial expressions.
And that is the opposite of what I do. Be really ugly and sweat a lot and then leave the gym.
Right. But like, it's literally like, I'm always fascinated watching people not having a change in facial expression while training.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating. And no sweat, and I'm like it's fascinating to watch because I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing. It's because, I mean, like, so yeah, you look pretty, but you can't do shit, basically. Like, so anyway, so that is not an environment that helps me find the pain cave and bodybuilding, like, it's just not the going back to isometric versus dynamic movement and all that stuff. The fight mode, everything is telling me that the fight mode is not found the best way through bodybuilding.
Yeah. And I found ways to make it work with I did bodybuilding training for about 4 months probably straight before we came here exclusively. And it was good, it was rewarding. But when I got back into moving myself through space or moving weight through space, that had taken a huge step back, regardless of what deliberate work I had done.
It's just not the same.
It's just not the same thing.
Just not the same. And that's why in the first 6 weeks of the template, I put like a sandbag day, if people can do it. It's because it's going to beat the shit out of you, but it's going to force you to stabilize the sandbag because it's awkward. Like you do a front squat with a sandbag, it pins you to the ground. Your hips don't know how to stabilize because the thing moves and your upper back has to work 3 times as hard. And carrying a sandbag sucks on every single step. Like, when you get away from that work, it's just, you lose a lot. Like, I realized I lost a lot out of not doing heavy sandbag carries anymore because I couldn't find it. So now that we made 100 kilos, 110, but the first time I tried to go like for 50 meters, I had to use an 80 kilo sandbag because I couldn't go heavier. Yeah. My hammies didn't want to go there. I didn't, my hands were cramping from holding so tight. I was like, what happened? What happened is you stopped doing it.
I can tell if I haven't been doing enough sandbag carries, it's because when I do them, then my forearms will get all rubbed and red.
Yep.
Whereas,
whereas
if I'm doing them often enough, I have like basically a hard candy shell along my
I remember when I used to get like the almost crocodile skin from doing so many heavy sandbag carries continuously. Like that skin was so rough. I've lost that. But so not doing heavy sandbag carries, I realized what it does to your entire body. There's something, you can't duplicate that.
No.
Heavy carries cannot be duplicated in a global gym. Like, there's just no way around it.
Yeah, and I was even testing yesterday a little bit because, doing some regular carries, then doing some suitcase carries, but fairly heavy. Was just to be like, I gotta see how some weird shit from left to right in my abs lately. So I go back, I do regular carry, and then I do this one side to another. And sure enough, I mean, I was trying to find these muscles doing other cute exercises and this or that, or paying extra attention or activating more.
Focusing a lot.
And it's just all of that matters. But none of it probably helped as much as just getting out there and grabbing something and fucking walking with it.
That low weight stuff, like they still, you can focus as hard as you want. This is still, the focus is in your head. It's not in your body. Like it doesn't, there's a moment where you can't duplicate that stuff.
And it forced me to breathe too, to breathe while doing it, which is a thing you can get away with. You can kind of get away with improper breathing when you're trying to train, call it your core or whatever it is that you're doing, in isolation or in a global gym. And if you're not carrying something, you can really kind of fudge your breath. Put a yoke on your back or fucking farmer's handles or a heavy sandbag that you're hanging on to. There is no way to get around it. You're going to find a way to breathe right or you're going to get stapled.
And what was interesting with your carries, the second I went past 600 pounds again, was like I couldn't breathe under it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, it felt heavy on my legs, but after a while, I was like, okay, that's feeling better, but just still couldn't breathe. Yeah. I had lost all that capacity to breathe under very heavy weights. Yeah, there's something to be said about heavy carries, like all that strongman stuff. Like you have to put it in. So maybe not continuously, because some people get beat up by it, but some measure of it, And so that's why there's always going to be a strongman day in the template, no matter what. There's always going to be a sandbag stuff, because those you should do all year long. The key is to organize that properly. And so the 642, I like a lot. Like it's working really well.
We can find the template at learning.strongfit.com/FITT everywhere else it'll be at a link below though.
Yeah, we'll put links everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
And here's, you know what I figured out after we made that? FITT, I think, because I tried to use it, just it has to be capital letters. You know that's a thing there? The capitalization matters in the thing. I could be wrong. Someone double check that for me. But I swore I tried and it did not work until I did that.
Oh, okay.
And I never would have fucking known.
No, so now we know. Capitalization matters. There you go.
I also could totally be wrong. I've just fucked it up the first few times. Yes. Do we want to announce the next episode? What it's going to be?
Oh, right, because it's on Wednesday. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you do it.
On Wednesday, we will. So this is just a few days from now, 3-4 days from now, we will be filming the Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself episode. Actually, the didn't kill himself might be speculating too far. It's most likely going to be the Jeffrey Epstein episode.
Yes, it's a Jeffrey Epstein episode because I will argue that he might have been suicide in the sense of, you know, like the Roman Empire, all Roman times where you go like either you commit suicide or your entire family goes as well. So in that kind of sense, I would believe that it was suicide in that sense.
I'd say we will both agree that there is no iteration of, or no possible way that could have played out that does not mean that he was coerced into dying.
Totally.
But you're going to find out more.
There's always a possibility, but it's very much at the bottom of the pile.
But there will be a lot of. I have rooted out every phase of that you could possibly go to with this and gotten only the things that are factual.
What I want to do is I want to ask certain questions the media didn't.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. I want to simply postulate what we know is true, like the fact that there's no record of his firm doing actually transactions,
any business,
even though he's supposed to deal with billions of dollars. He was a hedge fund manager, so billions of dollars a year, even though we don't have the transactions, stuff like that, like things we know because that's public record, and the questions stemming from that were not asked. Yeah, very strangely.
Because our goal here is not to come to. This is the thing I get at with everybody about every conspiracy thing. Anyways, I even hate the word conspiracy because
you sound crazy.
Well, now just
lizard people.
Fun fact: if you want to look up how that word has been manipulated to make alternative narratives dismissible, Google Epstein conspiracy, and what you're going to find is all these prioritized media articles that say conspiracy theorists are coming out of the woodwork. Crazy conspiracy theorists are flocking to Epstein. Where it doesn't say is actually what the fuck happened to the guy.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into lizard people. Nope. We're just going to go into like, that's what we know. And how come it didn't ring a louder bell?
Yeah.
Like everybody's treating it almost like it's a meme now. Like that funny Epstein stuff. Like no one truly gives a shit. Where the implications of the fact that the system, it's crazy.
Yeah, and the whole thing is going to be done from an angle of you as people need to do and expect better from everything.
The fact that
from the system,
in a way, Hillary Clinton got more outrage for the pedophile pizza gate bullshit that is obviously fucking insane. Why would you use a small pizza place as a front for a pedophile vampire blood-sucking thing is beyond me.
I can't get into all of the things that go down the Hillary Clinton blood-sucking vampire realm.
But
not all of it is as unsubstantiatable as Julien is implying.
Whatever.
That means
this is where we're not going.
This means that Julien stopped looking into that when that came out.
Yeah.
You got to start looking. I heard 2 years of developments.
I heard Pizzagate, I'm out.
You got to be out. But that's also intentional.
I'm out.
But the
fact that Pizzagate got more...
Well, that gets more coverage because it's easy to dismiss.
Right. But the fact that but even that's not just a system. It's people as well.
For sure.
That's why we say we want better out of people because people got more interested by that bullshit story than by very true things about Epstein that opens the door to major questions where you go like, where is the media?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as human beings, as people, as a society, I think you should hold these people who are responsible for fucking keeping you safe, informed, all of these things, hold them to a higher fucking standard. Or in my opinion, drag them out in the fucking street.
We need to torch the place down.
This is fucking unacceptable.
Like the shit I'm seeing even from the virus, like how much they're scaring people right now. Do you know they talk about like people under like 50, under 20 or 30 dying from the flu. Last year in the US, 8,000 people under the age of, can't remember where it was, like 30 or 50 died from the flu.
Yeah.
That's a shit ton of young people dying from the flu.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we need to torch the place down. And so, by the way, we can do...
Figuratively. Actually, no.
Some people want to see the world burn.
Yeah.
I'm getting closer. We can have podcasts like that when it goes conspiracy theory where I'll be the reasonable voice and then you can
I can go far into the weeds.
Exactly. That would be kind of fun.
What I always do is I don't speak on things that I don't... I can't substantiate fully.
Exactly.
So
you guys find us some subjects, and then we can go into that one.
And if nothing else, if we can't go fully into the weeds on all of them, I can extrapolate on them.
No, but it'd be kind of fun to have some subjects where once in a while we can just have fun.
Julian,
and you go into the weeds, and I try to debunk it.
I will tell you this.
I'll be the voice of reason.
As a person who is fairly reasonable, but I spend a lot of time in this territory, I'll tell you, Julien, you're not going to hear this. Pizzagate has aged much better than the Russiagate thing. Actually, surprisingly, if you look further into it, the Pizzagate thing, there's probably more to it there than you would think.
Oh, bullshit.
Not that thing. Now, not that specific place.
No, I'm not saying like the Clintons have not done some evil shit.
Now,
like,
I'm not saying that they're the
blood-sucking
side.
But the blood-sucking under a pizza parlor, give me a fucking break.
It's bananas. But that concept that there just might be some crazy fucking crazy shit.
Oh no, but crazy shit with the Clinton. Okay, like it's obviously.
Now, when we get into the Epstein episode, I actually cannot draw beyond I won't draw probably beyond a couple connections to the Clinton thing, because there's actually very few that are fully rock solid, and we'll get into that on the episode.
Bill Clinton got into that plane 26 times.
True, but that's it.
That's all so that's what we're gonna say. Yeah. Like the Clinton stuff is Bill Clinton was in Epstein plane going to that fucking island 26 times.
So the Epstein thing is going to be about what happened, what's provable,
to the island 26 times. Was in the plane, Epstein plane 26 times.
Five times without his Secret Service detail also. But that doesn't mean anything. But anyway, things that can be proven and things that we can really that the media wouldn't have to have speculated to say, hey, something smells here.
You're supposed to ask questions. That's your job. And the reason I wanted to do that podcast is because, to me, it has to do about system versus people. Mm-hmm. And where we are going as a society of crucifying people, but not touching systems.
Yeah.
That's what worries me in a way. But it's a return. I think this is to me. You know how I see it? I see it as democracy failing in a way, of an idea of democracy that was maybe wrong, where we're just going back to hierarchical systems, just like royalty back in Europe, and then we are back into this system, but now it's hidden within the capitalism system that allows a different varnish on it that makes it look like something like it isn't.
Yeah.
And but maybe it was the same back then. Maybe the peasants 600 years ago were in favor of the king. Maybe not everybody hated having a king. So, but I feel that's a little bit what I see now, where most people are willing want the system to succeed, even though it might not be in the best interest. Yeah. They still want to see the system flourish, even at their own expense.
Well, I just think it's weird that I see that I know way more, since whatever. There's way more coverage on the O.J. Simpson trial than there is on the Epstein thing.
Not even
close.
The
fucking implications of this Epstein thing are at least at a very surface level, fucking really worth looking into. And it's
fun for what it says about government stuff, and like again how much some people are in a system that is where not even the media will touch them, not even us. That's what bothers me the most, that we won't touch it. Mm-hmm. That's what bothers me. The media, corporate media and everything, I get it. They're bought off, I get that. But the fact that we, as people, are not asking more on the subject, That's what worries me.
Yeah.
Because then it's apathy, which is, I think, is the most dangerous thing of all. It's the system against people. It's like during the Me Too movement, the fact that 50 Shades of Grey was the #1 bookseller for years.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you combine those two? Like, it's things like this, where systems versus individual, where I'm like, we're going to crucify I can't remember Jason Bourne.
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon, because he said getting slapped on the ass is not the same thing as getting raped, which I would think is fairly obvious, right? And he got plastered on Twitter and stuff like that. At the same time that 50 Shades of Grey is the #1 book in America, and the movie did really well.
Yeah. Can't win. Well, that's it. Like I said, if it doesn't work on the base, on the micro and the macro at the same level, I don't believe the system to be the thing to be universally true. And so that's just the way I look at this thing. Is I think there should be outrage for this. Should be a lot more outrage for this than there is like what this system, whatever this Epstein thing could imply, is a lot. And you should be really excited for our next episode.
Exactly.
So. It's the most research I've done on one, and the problem is it's the subject. Truthfully, going into this would be like almost the 90th episode, give or take, somewhere in there, 85, something like that. In all of these episodes, it's actually the one I've done the most independent research on, which is funny. I mean, since we decided to do it, which is funny is because it's the one I already knew the most about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For sure.
But this one you went.
Well, the problem is I can't just say what I believe probably is the case and how I think the thing lays out, because that's always way too far for people anyways, you know.
But like this stuff about the girlfriend, Ghislaine.
Yeah, there's a lot. Oh, and there's stuff, we're going to get into everything. The fucking, the sweet deal in Florida, the fucking, all of these things are...
Again, there is a possibility the guy was just scared he was going to lose the case. There's always the... we're not going to, we're going to ask the questions.
Yeah. So we're going to present the evidence and ask why it was not looked at.
Yep.
And then if you think that evidence is compelling, then you need to shove it up somebody's ass.
That one you cannot, it's like some of the stuff, it's like, and then the tapes.
Yeah.
All tapes got erased by mistake, like all of them.
Yeah, but
twice.
But hold on about the tapes thing. You know NASA recorded over all of the first moon landing telemetry data to save space.
I'm not going there.
Tapes matter now, but they don't matter then.
I'm not going there.
See, this is why me and
60 years later, I'm not going there.
This is why me and Julien only can touch on things that are provable. That's why tapes we can't touch.
Right. No, we can touch the tapes in the Epstein story case.
Yes, correct.
Because that's
otherwise
relevant.
It's a lot of coincidences, but yeah.
No, but no, like the tapes of his cell were erased, and then the tapes of him in the like walking around like in between, like those were erased as well.
Yeah, we get into the details when we get there.
Yeah. Anyway,
I had to bring up the moon landing tapes.
Exactly.
So motherfucker about to bring up tapes, but tapes didn't matter. All right, so we
whatever.
We have strongfit.com, strongfitequipment.com, strongfitequipment.eu.
The moon landing was real.
The moon landing was real. I think
because he's going to agree. He's going to say, but when is the question?
Not the first one.
Exactly.
That first one never happened. You guys are crazy.
You keep telling me that the rocks are not real. Anyway.
We will... all the rest, StrongFit1 on Instagram, training template, Julien's one-on-one coaching is going to be in the stuff below or on the link in bio on Instagram. T-shirts, apparel, StrongFit Equipment. Follow StrongFit Equipment on IG, StrongFit1 on IG, Tyler F. and Stone, Rare Barracuda. Manta Fitness has shirts, apparel, sandbags, all the good stuff in New Zealand and Australia. And God, I think
what he says.
That's all I got. So thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you in a couple days.